Domesticated elephants are often secured with just a small rope tied around one leg that they have the physical capacity to easily break through, but they don't because they're trained to believe that they can't break through the ropes. So this happens because when they're little babies, they have these ropes tied around their leg and they're not strong enough or big enough at the time to break through them. And so they become conditioned to think that they can never break through them. So even when they're bigger and much stronger and can easily break through them, they never do because they think they can't. This is the same for us. Beliefs are hugely powerful, both for good and for bad. They can accelerate us to our highest levels of being, and they can keep us from being our very best. The research behind this is so fascinating. Beliefs, simply believing that one can make positive change in their life, actually leads to increased motivation and job performance. For example, in a study of 112 entry-level accountants, those who believed that they would be able to accomplish their goals were the ones who 10 months later actually did receive the highest reviews from their supervisors. And their belief in their abilities was a stronger predictor of job performance than their actual skills at the time and their level of training. So their belief in their ability to be successful as accountants was more important at that time than their actual abilities. That's what predicted 10 months later those who were most successful. Belief is so powerful. But so often, we don't know how to believe something that we want to believe. It can be challenging. It can be a struggle. So that's what I want to focus on today, is giving you a strategy that you can use, an actionable strategy to implement so that you can train your brain to believe something that you want to believe. So let's walk through this. Step number 1 is to simply write out in a very clear sentence the belief that you want to embrace. So maybe that could look something like, I am going to become a starter on my team. Maybe that's it. I am going to become a starter on my team. And notice here, I didn't even say, I believe I'm going to become a starter on my team. I don't even implement that phrase because I want to state it clearly like a statement of truth. This is just a fact. I am going to become a starter on my team. So state it very clearly so that your brain knows exactly what you're trying to train it to believe. That's step number 1. The next step then is to list as much evidence as you can think of that backs that belief, that supports it. So with this example, it could look like things like skills that you have or successes that you've had in your sport in the past, or resources that you know that you have, or personal strengths or characteristics that you know that you have that will serve you in that mission. List as much evidence as you possibly can. This, first of all, tells the brain, okay, there's a pretty dang good argument for this belief. And it primes your mind to scan for that evidence moving forward so that you can gather more and more and more of it. Okay, the next step is to fully embrace that belief 100% for a predetermined, limited amount of time. So instead of just saying, okay, this is my new belief and I believe it, a lot of times it's hard for our brains to really fully latch on 100% all the time from then on out. But one thing that can be helpful is to decide, okay, for this limited amount of time, I am going to believe that this is my only reality, that this is true 100%, and I am not allowed to question it during this predetermined amount of time. And you can decide what that time is. Maybe that time is during this game, or during this next point, or during this practice, or during this day of work, or during this day, or this week. You can experiment and figure out which segment of time works best for you. But what this does is it gives the brain permission to stop fighting against that belief for a temporary amount of time. Because it knows after this amount of time, I'm allowed to maybe argue back a little bit and question if this is true. But right now, I don't have to do that. Because right now, I'm assuming that this is 100% true. Then, once you've determined how long you want to embrace the truth for, or the belief for, without questioning it at all, then you decide to take action in accordance with that belief during that amount of time. So for this game, for this day, for this week, act as though that thought genuinely is 100% true. And then finally, at the end of that amount of time, the game, the day, the week, reflect and notice how taking action in accordance with that belief affected your emotions, your actions, and your results. This helps you to track what comes from believing this. Is this belief helpful for me? And if it is helpful, if it does lead to beneficial results, then that reinforces once again that this must be a good belief. It can help you to gather more evidence. And then the final step is to just continue the process of gathering evidence over time. So as more evidence backing this belief arises, continue to bring it in as an argument for this belief. So don't just list the evidence that one time at the very beginning and then be done. Continually scan and continually revisit this list that you've created and continually write down the evidence that you gather for this belief. As you do this, as you take limited amounts of time to embrace this belief fully, and then in between those amounts of time, you revisit and consider if you still want to hold on to this belief and still be committed to it. As you go through that and gather evidence and notice how this belief affects you emotionally and actions-wise and results-wise, you will be led to evidence that cannot be denied. If it is something that is true, it will become confirmed. Maybe it will never 100% be confirmed, but you will train yourself to believe it strongly. And this is a skill that is critical for all of us in order to perform at our highest possible levels in every aspect of our lives. Building intentional beliefs is a skill. We don't have to be passive about beliefs that happen to just come upon us. We can be intentional about what we believe and training ourselves to believe it. Thank you so much for listening today. I truly appreciate it. Please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Those are so helpful. Thank you so much. Let's go be high performing today.